Honorable judges, worthy opponents, ladies and gentlemen. When you heard the news about Trump's proposed economic sanctions on Canada, what was your reaction? Did you give in to the fear-mongering and the rhetorical bluster, bowing your heads and hoping that they would quickly pass? Or did you look to your neighbors and leaders for ways to join a united Canadian front to protect your livelihoods and your financial stability? On Side Government, we will show that Canada needs an assertive response to secure its long-term growth and protect the Canadian economy in all scenarios. As Prime Minister, I will offer some background, our model, and two arguments. Concession, not an option, and investing for all possible worlds. We may have to pursue these measures into somewhat worse economic conditions in the short term to establish a less vulnerable long-term trade position with the US. And as I and my partner will show, the benefits of these vastly outweigh the costs. So the question is, what is happening here, really? Clearly, Trump is unwilling to articulate a reasonable, practical course for ending this conflict. His only statement so far being that this ends when we become the 51st state. Fat chance.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister opened his remarks by mentioning, what was your reaction when you heard the news? This clearly states that all of the decisions that the government is making in regards to the trade tariffs are emotional, not scientific, not philosophical, not rational. By putting tariffs against Canadian products, they are basically failing on their own. Let them do that. Our best strategy is to ignore them. Just because something feels good doesn't make it wise. Retaliatory tariffs might satisfy an emotional urge to hit back at Uncle Sam, but they fail the basic test of sound economics. It is history that will give us the right answers. By acting emotional at the moment and do what the United States is doing to us, we are harming our politics, economics, and our people in both short-term and long-term.
The US economy is larger than ours, and there's a disparity in our economies. However, we can, in a sense, level the playing field by recognizing that there are certain pressure points and there are certain industries that the US economy values significantly more than the Canadian economy. We have to show them that an attack on the Canadian economy is ultimately an attack on a more global market, and putting on these tariffs is the best way to go about doing this, right? And it galvanizes support. We can have better and stronger trade negotiations with our allies because they know we're committed to making these negotiations and relationships. And just to show America that perhaps, just maybe, that starting a trade war with your biggest ally perhaps isn't the best thing to do.
We, the opposition, stand firmly against shooting ourselves in the foot just to stub Americans' toe. The US-China trade war is a giant cautionary tale. In the 2020 Phase 1 agreement, China promised to buy an extra $200 billion of American products. Can you guess how much they actually bought? Let's say it all together. Zero. Zero. Remember 2018? When the US imposed tariffs on our steel and aluminum, and we retaliated with tariffs on ketchup, orange juice, and Uncle Sam's whiskey? You remember that? It didn't miraculously fix trade relations or teach the US a lasting lesson. It was mutual pain that got resolved only when cooler diplomatic heads prevailed. Who are we kidding? Canada is far more vulnerable in any trade war. Our economy is deeply entwined with our American neighbors. A whopping 77% of Canadian goods exports to the United States, and about 63% of our imports come from the United States. The US, on the other hand, sends only 18% of its exports to Canada. In plain terms, we rely on them way more than they rely on us. We can't neglect this. We can't be emotional. We need to be realistic here.
You talk a lot about improving Canadian consumers. But do you recognize that Canada is a federal country and our economy is not just the country's economy? We have a lot of portions of provincial economic aspects. Do you not recognize that politics have are superior compared to economics?
Yes,
and
exactly. And as a matter of fact, that is exactly why we are proposing the policy we're proposing, because we appreciate you standing on your high horse, or high elephant in this case, talking about how Trump is breaking the rules and we should stand strong and stand by them. But that's what happens with rule breakers. They get away with all of the spoils, and we stand here on our philosophical win as our economy continually goes downwards.
How do you prove that retaliatory tariffs are going to work?
All right, I'm actually so glad you brought up history. We don't have to go all the way back to Egypt to prove to you that this works. So we can just go back to 2018, where there was a trade war, right? And there were retaliatory tariffs placed on the US. And we've seen that we were able to come back in terms of like trade relations, right? We were able to sign the USMCA after even a trade war, right? So the relations will still be like the same, whether or not there's a trade war, and we'll come back from this economic decline. Like,
Do you want to take credit for fixing a problem that you yourself create? You're providing a relief to businesses because they're going to be hurt by the tariffs that you impose on them.
But they're going to be hurt regardless. What you don't understand
If you don't
is
impose tariffs, how are they going to be hurt?
because the US is already doing it. What you misunderstand is that this is not a cost that never existed. This is a marginal additional cost that we bear for the long-term sustainability of our economy. Because what you don't recognize is that we are being hurt today.
Retaliatory tariffs may feel good, but they make zero economic sense. Our economy is too fragile for self-inflicted wounds, and that Canada is already winning in smarter ways. It's about Canada, the unity within our nation, the unity amongst our provinces and territories, improving our own policies, improving our own economics, helping our own citizens, and those who call Canada home. Thank you.
We need to show the United States that we're exactly the opposite. If you step on us, we're a thorn, not an ant, and we're going to bite back. And that in the long term, what we need today is action. Action and a response that answers all of the cases that we need, supplying federal aid to our businesses to absorb these shocks so that our consumers, yes, will pay some costs, but not all the costs, and not for the longest term into the future. And that's why we stand with Team Canada. Thank you.
The winner is government.